welcome to How to Make a Map for Mutant Year Zero the easiest way. My name's Shane. I have no training as a graphic designer, no training as an artist, and the map you see on the screen in front of you is the first one I've ever done. So I promise you this really is an easy way to do it. The resources you're going to need, and they should all be linked from the same place you got this video, is the template for the zone map, which I've created, a crumpled paper texture, a discoloration texture, and a mouldy texture of some variety. I've also got some zone markings that I've drawn up, scrolls of buildings and warnings and the like, and a map of Glasgow. Now, how did I get the map of Glasgow though? I used stammen.com and their watercolour site. If I select watercolour and then I select, as I'm going to use, Glasgow, I get this. I click image. Maximum I can set this to is 2000 pixels, so I'm going to set it to 2000 by 1200 because that will give me the ability to increase it with the correct aspect ratio. I then move it around, size it as I desire, and then I click make. You'll see it's processing, and here you go. That's the link you click on. However, as I prepared one earlier, here it is. The first thing I've got to do, otherwise it doesn't work, is to resize it. Keeping the aspect ratio, it's now sized to the 5000 by 3000 pixels, which the entire template is set to. I'm now going to copy it, and I'm going to paste it into the template. Now here is the template. Let's talk through the template quickly. We have the background layer all in red. That's there because it's great for contrast when working on the roads and the water later on. The colours for picking layer, this lets me select the colours I've chosen for water and for roads that match the textures I've chosen. You may need to use different ones. For the paper texture, this gives a kind of 3D effect. The discoloration one, this is what turns it into old paper. The next layer is called the mould layer. I've called it mould because I like to put mould on the paper because I think it looks good, but you can put anything you want that will generally change it. Then there's the working layer that I'm about to post the map into. Above that there's the water layer. Now the water layer is all white, and the road layer all black. You'll see why in a bit. The next four layers are the coordinates you can see and the grid lines, the compass, and the compass background. Now if you've got a black or really dark background, the compass background is just a slightly opaque white area that lets it stand out. So you could use them, not use them, move them all together. Next one will be zone markings, and the top one will be blood and top level decorations, just for anything else you want to splatter across the top of the map. So without any further ado, I'm going to select the map layer and I'm going to paste in the map that I've just done, and to save memory I'm going to close down the other one. So first things first, we need to work on the water. So in preparation for that, I'm going to pick the colour for the water, making sure I'm on the correct layer when I do so. So now I have the correct colour. Activate my red background, then bring my map back. This is where you use the magic wand tool, and you set your tolerance to whatever level you think works better when you're on the map layer, and sort of play with the tolerance until you're happy that it's covered areas. Now, I mean, in that case it's run slightly off, but actually I'm quite happy with the river having burst its banks a bit in the time since the apocalypse. Maybe not that much though. I'm not going to select all the water on this map for the purposes of this tutorial. And there. So you see I've selected the areas of the water I want to work with. The river tails away down here to much narrower, but I won't take the time to do that just now. I click on water and then I hit the delete key. It vanishes, which shows me that it's probably done what it's supposed to do, because if I select water now you can see through the water layer, which was all white. The reason I use the white is because it very much contrasts with what I'm about to pour in with the bucket, which is the official Mutant Year Zero kind of watercolour that I can sort of see on the maps. I've chosen this one just because I quite like it. I think it's a good colour for the water. Pop that in there and pop that in there. Now comes the bit where you get your brush tool and you tidy up. You can sometimes use your bucket tool as well, as I've done here for bits, what I'm going to use the brush for is areas like this where I think bridges might not necessarily have remained standing, in some areas like this. And as you can see, I mean, what you can do is just sort of run around the whole area like that and then fill the remainder in with the bucket tool and the like. And it's all about touching up the water using whatever brush size is appropriate. And if you go over a little bit, it doesn't really matter, because the water may well have burst and changed its banks. In fact, something I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to decide that the reason the river doesn't continue on here is it's moved into a big lake. Obviously, if you're doing your sort of map for your home games, you clearly take a bit of care and take the time you need to do everything. But for the purposes of this demonstration, I think that's probably good enough. The next stage is to use the magic wand tool to remove the white. So what you can now see is I've covered the areas of water. I can hide the water's done. Save early, save often, and we're onto the roads next. So again, working on the map layer, again using the magic wand tool. From earlier experimentation, I know somewhere around 50% is good for this, because I don't want all the roads, because a lot of them would have vanished, and we just click on a road. As you can see, that's given me all the roads. So let's just drop a little below 50%. Too few. And I'll go with that for now. Same again, click on the roads layer, click delete. Because now when I select that and hide the map, you can see the various areas through. I'll get rid of the colours for picking layer. And what you can see now is all that. So what I need is my colours for picking, get rid of the road, and I need to select the colour that I use for roads with the textures that I've got. And then I'm just going to use the bucket tool to drop it in, but I'm going to drop it in on the correct layer so it doesn't overwrite my background. Then we use the magic wand tool again to remove the black. This is another example where using the red background is ideal. You just have to quickly go through with this, so I'm going to fade out now and come back on in a moment when I've done this, because this bit isn't really a spectator sport. And now we're back having done that. At this point, if I add the water in, you can see the beginnings of the map. We've now finished completely with the map layer. You don't need to remove those to delete it, but I'm going to just see the map layer is now gone. So I put the roads and the water on. This is where I'm going to start bringing in my textures. So I'm going to open all three textures at once at this point, just for simplicity, but this will slow things down. I could add them in as layers, but I'm just going to open each as an image and copy them in one at a time, so you can see how the image builds up. So these have all been sized out at 5000 by 3000, so I'm just going to copy it. I'm going to drop this one onto the paper texture layer beneath, which if I turn the layer on you'll see. Now at that point it looks very, very light. This is where the discoloration layer comes in, which I've just turned on. I'm going to select the discoloration. This is actually a photograph of concrete that's started to go mouldy. And onto the discoloration layer I'm going to drop this. Now you can begin to see the map taking shape already. The next bit is to put in this mouldy effect. Now what you're going to notice here is this is going to cover everything up. We'll just drop that in there. Except for you can see the roads and the water still. I'll close those to conserve memory. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to add in another layer, and I'll make sure this is in the one you download, the mask. So at this point I'm going to decide which bits I want to have with that kind of mold effect, and a nice big brush in black, and let's keep everything along the river here will have its mould and down and duck in and around down there. Let's keep that bit up in the top corner. Let's keep that bit up in the top corner there, and let's have a couple of sections of random discoloration around the rest of the map. That's good enough. Then you just fill in the middle, so the only things left uncovered are the bits you want. Same old trick, we go back to the mould layer, select the area I've just filled, go down, same old trick. At this point, delete the map layer, and what you can now see is the roads, the areas of different texture. Maybe these don't actually look so good there, so let's delete them and delete them. And then you could titivate down here a little bit with your eraser just to kind of get the area you want, so it doesn't look quite so even and the like. And there you go, that looks a lot better. Right, that is at this point kind of the basis of the map. And if we go back to the desktop, you can see we're pretty much at that stage now anyway. One thing that I can now see is the water doesn't stand out a lot. So back to the water layer, I'm going to outline object in black, OK. Sometimes you don't need to, now you do. So as you can see, there are bridges and that across the way. You could decide to demolish them if you want, and actually I think I'm going to go to the road layer and I'm going to erase them and I'm going to demolish them, and we can worry about why there's a bridge there, it's surviving over the river, let's kill that one. I like the fact there's just one bridge, it's a good point of control, somewhere to put an interesting location. The final bit at the moment is now to add the rest of it. So to zone markings, I'm going to select all of these ones and I'm going to drop them in to each image in turn. So the zone, it's hell but it's home. Let's post that in somewhere and we'll pop it up there, and that corner actually seems like a reasonable place. We'll pop a half sunk ship here in the water. Definitely don't go here, stay away from that bit of water down there. You can draw arrows pointing to things or whatever you want to do. At this point you could add a blood splat or whatever you want on top, and this is where, just to get the final effect you want, you start to play with the opacity of the layers. So like if I make it more opaque, less opaque, sorry, it will start to darken it out. I think that looks quite nice, so let's change that a bit. The grid lines are still okay, they're not too light, too dark. I don't think we need the compass rose background to make it visible. At this point we could save that, and that is the very basics of how a map is done. At this point it's all titivation and coming up with the specifics you want, and the only difference between the map you can now see in front of you is I took a little more time to make sure the water was good. I mean, I was zoomed in closer as well, so there wasn't as much detail. I also deleted whole chunks of road, which you can do fairly easily just by making sure you're on your roads layer, selecting the eraser on a relatively small brush and just running it around, and as you can see it's eroding the roads down and making them look more damaged. And then just simply export it and go for broke. There is your map for Mutant Year Zero. I hope you found this tutorial easy and useful, and the best of luck in creating your own.